What is up, my fellow writing addicts? I'm Marissa, and today we're discussing burnout. Now, I know I already have a video called writer's block, and I know a lot of people like to use these terms interchangeably, but they are very different. They're caused by different things, and they are solved by different things. Now, if you remember, writer's block is the not on what to write issue, but burnout is that you don't have the energy and you simply can't write. It's a very different battle altogether. Some causes of burnout are, lack of downtime, feeling overworked and undervalued, taking on too much responsibility, and, not getting that monetary reward for your efforts. Constantly working too many hours, lack of support, perfectionism, and a negative view of yourself. Unwillingness to delegate, the need to control everything. And lastly, and I feel like this is just across the board, you feel overwhelmed. Though one of those causes might have brought on burnout, you're not exactly sure of what caused it. So I feel like it's really important that you look at the signs of it so I can identify that you do indeed have it. And the first sign is that you're just extremely exhausted all the time. You lack motivation. You're cranky as hell. You have trouble remembering things. You have lower quality of work. And because you're cranky as fuck, it affects your home life. Because who wants to be around a cranky-ass person 24/7? Burnout even affects you physically. You can have health issues. You can have headaches, insomnia, stomach issues. You can even have heart palpitations. It can be that serious. And sadly, it also makes you not like writing as much. You can even become to hate it or loathe it. Not only that, but you're also stressed about your writing. You're stressed about how much, the fact that you have to write, and you're stressed by the fact that you're not writing. And it's like a cycle that just gets you further and further to be stressed out. This can also lead to isolation. You no longer see your friends, which makes you feel shitty because now they're mad at you. And lastly, because of the prior one, you ignore your work and your deadlines. You just stop doing them because you physically can't write, and that's burnout. Now, it's time. I'm going to give you some tips on how to relieve your burnout, because it's at some point I feel like it's sad, but it's going to happen. And most people do recognize that burnout is a thing, so you can actually talk to people about this one. But the first step in recovering from burnout, like any problem, is recognizing that you have a problem. If you just think it's on your head or it's another medical issue, it's never going to be resolved because you're not attacking the heart of the issue. Once you've done that, you can, try to find a new place to work. It can be something as easy as moving your desk, changing to a new room. It can be something as drastic as I need to start writing in a coffee shop, in a library, at a friend's house. If you're in school, at the university, whatever have you. Sometimes changing up your routine of where you work can relieve that burnout. Another way that you could do it is remember why you write. Why did you get started? For me, it was because I wanted to write the stories, and especially that representation that I wasn't seeing. I'm not only LGBTQ, but I have mental illness, and I never see that. In fact, when I do see it for the longest time, it was villainized. And I want to come out and say no, it's okay to have those things and still be the hero, because you still can be the hero. And that's what it should be, they shouldn't just be villains. And then following that, remember that you have time. And this is what I mean. I know I'm fairly young. I'm only 24. But I feel like a lot of people feel like there's this ticking time clock that they have to get it done, that if they don't get it done by either their 30s or their 40s, they failed. And that's a flat out lie. I know people who started writing in their 60s. I know people who didn't publish their first book until they were 30. You have time. It's okay to take a break or slow your pace. Just remember that. The next thing is reach out to people and tell them that you're suffering from burnout. Either you create a support line, either of writers or friends and family who understand, or you lean on your existing one. I'm so grateful that I do have writer friends who understand both burnout and writer's block. I can just call them up and say, yo, I'm suffering from burnout. And they're like, oh my God, let's talk about it. Knowing that they're there for me can sometimes be the thing that really solves it, because I feel supported. And it'll carry me out. Of course, you can also just take a break or a vacation, depending on what you feel that you need. Haley and I were feeling really bad burnout. We took a cruise. We were gone for 8 days. And I like cruises because We didn't pay for the Wi-Fi. There was no way we could work, and there was no way no one could bug us. We just took a break from everything, and that really kind of just relieved like all the burnout we had up to that point. Another thing you can do is, focus on your writing and not comparing yourself to others. This really goes to that like self-esteem issues if you have it, or that perfectionism, is that you are comparing yourself to someone else. I like to compare myself to, weirdly enough, to like Jane Austen or Charlotte Bronte because I love their writing so much, and that's what I want to emulate, but then I end up being frustrated during the rough draft, which is allowed to be shit, by the way, because it's not the end result. So please give yourself a lot of leeway when you're writing the first couple, rough drafts, especially the first one. Editing is there to polish it. Writing is just there to get the ideas down. Give yourself a break, please. And following that, practice a positive mindset. If you keep telling yourself, this is shit, I'm never going to amount to anything, eventually you believe it and you can't break out of that mindset and it just bogs you down. You have to combat that voice at every second and say, no, I am worth something. I will get this done and it's going to be good. Hell, it can even be great. You have to combat that negative voice at any chance, because otherwise you're not going to get anything done. It's so debilitating. You can always, write something else, and that can be a short story, that could be a scene that you're maybe not going to put in the book. Maybe it's writing exercises. I highly recommend those. I think they're really good at getting your mind off the plot that might be troubling you and getting your mind somewhere else, and it might actually provide that like aha moment that you needed. Of course, you can always please consider this with, I know it's hard, but sometimes you might need to drop the project. It might be better to put it on a shelf for a little bit and maybe not write it all or write a different project altogether. But please be careful with that. I really give that advice sparingly because I don't want it to become a habit for most people. If you don't want to give up your project, you can always, at least this is my advice, is change like when and how much you write. And this is if you were like, I'm going to write 3,000 words a day. That's a lot. Maybe trim that down. If you write every day of the week, maybe not. Maybe leave weekends open. Maybe write every other day. Or you have set days like I'm going to write Monday, Wednesday, Friday. The rest you're doing other stuff. You could also change when you write. If you write in the mornings and you're like, this sucks, try writing in afternoons or evenings or even, late into the night. Try different things so that way you know kind of how to, basically like you can be like, okay, when this starts working, I can move to this kind of schedule and keep myself going without wanting to kill myself. And, following that, making sure you don't kill yourself, exercise, stay healthy. That also will bog you down if you're not showering, if you're not doing dental care, if you aren't eating properly. That's going to make you feel like shit. You have to make yourself healthy, eat healthy meals, go for walks, exercise. I mean, hell, even just walking around will make you feel a lot better because sitting at a desk all day sucks. It's not good for your posture. It's not good for your body. Like long term, go outside, get some fresh air, get that blood pumping. And my last tip for you guys is to just clean your workspace. I know it's kind of a weak thing to end off of, but a lot of times for me, when I am like feeling the beginnings of burnout, just clearing off my desk, making it organized. Sometimes I do dishes. It's a weird thing I do, but if it's there, it bugs me. Just clearing it all off makes it feel less cluttered, makes it feel more organized, and it's one less distraction and irritation for me to really, get under my skin and, kind of snowball out of proportion for later on. Now, this is a little personal, but I'm going to discuss how I feel about burnout. Like me going through burnout, not me being like, burnout doesn't exist. No, none of that shit. So Haley, my co-host, and I are writing an epic. Currently, right now, I'm writing my debut novel, but that is something that we are, we've been writing this epic for years. And I do mean years. We've been writing it for, I believe 5 years now. It's a long time, but because it is so complex and intricate with multiple points of views, it naturally needs to take all that time. But when you don't know that because we were so young when we started it and we thought it was going to be smaller and simple, it gets frustrating, especially because I was the one who had to do a lot of the rewrites just because my character's not because Haley didn't want to write. But because of that, I kept feeling like, if I had wrote it better, I wouldn't have to rewrite it. if it was, if I just basically that, like if it was perfect, I wouldn't be here. We'd be done, we'd be published, we'd be happy. But instead I was very frustrated. And I was dealing with other things like a poor self-image, and I was dealing with mental illness and all these other things but it really boiled down to the fact that it's just, I worked myself to death between writing and school, and at the time the podcast. And at another point, I got a job doing all that and cramming it into a very tiny plate that I couldn't survive spreading myself so thin on. It was, a match made in hell for burnout. And, what really worked for me, and because I tried taking breaks, because I knew I had to come back to this frustration sometimes, oddly enough, and I don't like giving this advice out, is I had to push through it and get to a certain point, like whether it be finishing that rough draft or finishing that bit of editing and then taking a break. Because if I knew I still had to come back to it, it kept the burnout lingering. So if nothing else fails, you can try my advice. But again, it's not something I typically like to give out, because I would never want someone to hear, oh yeah, just get through it and then it'll be fine, and them to suffer for so long when they could have taken the earlier tips and been free from this. And to follow that somber message up, that is all that I have for you guys today. Please tell me in the comments below, how do you guys deal with burnout? What is your tip that, usually carries you through it? Please tell me in the comments below. And you can also tell me on Twitter at writing_addicts, or on Facebook at facebook.com/writingaddicts. If you get creative, you can tell me on our Instagram at writing.addicts. And please, please hit that subscribe button. It really makes me happy. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, so YouTube actually tells you guys when I post shit. And of course, I will see you next time. Bye, lovelies!